I came home after midnight with my key in hand and found my wife had changed the locks.
That's when I looked through the window and saw my wife on my couch with another man. I did not get angry. Instead, I thought of the craziest revenge plan, and my wife regret her decision forever.
The key shrieked against metal, sharp as nails dragged across a chalkboard. Wrong lock. I stood there at 11:47 p.m., drained from a red-eye flight out of Denver, my toolbox dragging down my left shoulder, staring at a polished new deadbolt that absolutely hadn't existed when I left for the electrical job 3 days ago. Through the living room window, I could see my wife, Lauren, stretched out on my couch, laughing at something on my television, sipping what looked like my good whiskey from my crystal glasses. She wasn't alone. A man I didn't recognize sat pressed against her, his arms slung around her shoulders like he belonged there. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren, "Found someone better, collect your things next week." I read it once, then again. Then I lifted my phone and photographed the deadbolt. The flash bounced off the brass, highlighting the fact that it was brand new, so new the manufacturer's sticker still clung to the edge, half-peeled. Sloppy. Lauren had never had patience for details. I typed back, "Are you sure about that?" 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again, then nothing. I slipped the phone into my pocket, walked back to my truck, and drove straight to the downtown Marriott. The night clerk looked half dead as I checked in, paid cash, and requested a room overlooking the river. I ordered room service, a steak dinner that cost more than Lauren usually spent on groceries in a week. Might as well start somewhere. While I waited, I sat on the hotel bed and studied the photograph of that deadbolt. She'd hired someone to install it, paid extra for after-hours service. That meant planning. This wasn't impulse, not guilt, not panic. It was calculated. After 22 years of marriage, you think you know someone. Lauren married a quiet electrician. Union guy, steady work, reliable paycheck. What she'd forgotten was that I wasn't just an electrician. I owned Caldwell Electrical Solutions, licensed in 4 states, holding commercial contracts that kept crews busy year-round. I built our house with my own hands. Every wire pulled, every outlet set, every breaker labeled to code and beyond. My name was on everything that mattered. Room service arrived as I scrolled through my phone, stopping on my attorney's contact. Jim Patterson. We'd gone to high school together, played football until I blew out my knee junior year. He handled the paperwork when I incorporated the business, bought the land, and set up the family trust that held the house title. The steak was perfect, medium rare, exactly how I ordered it. I ate slowly, thinking about that deadbolt, about the man on my couch. Lauren said she'd upgraded. I wondered what better looked like to her now. Tuesday morning, I started digging. It's amazing what you can uncover with a name and patience. The man from my couch was Kyle Donnelly, 38, regional sales manager for a medical supply company. His LinkedIn showed him beside a silver BMW, arms crossed, smiling the kind of smile that worked on lonely housewives. Kyle lived in Riverside luxury apartments. Executive living, they claimed. Really just overpriced 1-bedrooms with granite counters. His lease was public record, $2,800 a month for 900 square feet. The BMW wasn't leased like I'd assumed. It was financed. And according to the credit report I could access through my business accounts, he was 3 payments behind. Lauren had upgraded to a man drowning in debt who owned nothing. Meanwhile, she was living in a house she had no legal claim to. I called Jim at 9 o'clock m sharp. "Ethan, good to hear from you. How's business?" "Complicated," I said. "I need to ask about that prenup Lauren signed." A pause. "That was over 20 years ago. What's happening?" I told him everything, the locks, the text, Kyle on my couch. Jim listened without interrupting. One of the reasons I trusted him. When I finished, he went quiet. "Ethan, that prenup is ironclad. It protects the trust, the land, the house, the business. None of it is marital property. And if she abandoned the house, she's violating the occupancy clause." "What does that mean?" "It means you can legally reclaim your property, but document everything. Don't do anything that looks like harassment. The utilities," another pause, "they're all in your name: power, water, gas, internet, security. Then I manage them. Legally, yes. Just document." I hung up and sat in my truck outside the coffee shop. Inside, construction workers grabbed caffeine. Office workers scrolled phones, retirees read papers, normal lives. Mine had shifted overnight. My phone rang. Lauren. "Ethan, we need to talk." "I'm listening. This doesn't have to be ugly. You changed the locks and moved another man into my bed. Define not ugly." "It's not like that. Kyle and I connected. You're always working." I felt lonely. So you cured loneliness by stealing my house? I live there too. No, you don't. Check the deed. Check the prenup you signed at that brunch place on Elm Street, the one where you said the mimosas blurred everything. Silence. I'll be by this afternoon for my things. Make sure you and Kyle are decent. I hung up. Wednesday morning, I called the power company, Caldwell Electrical Solutions. Ethan Caldwell speaking. I need to report an unauthorized occupant at 1247 Oakwood Drive. The rep sounded bored. Unauthorized how? Someone changed the locks and moved in without permission. I'm the owner and account holder. Verification followed. Everything matched. Service is current. Are you sure you want disconnect? Absolutely. They can open their own account. A truck was scheduled. Next call water. Same result. Gas. Internet security monitoring. By 2 p.m., 1247 Oakwood Drive would be dark and cold. I drove by at 3:30 as the power truck pulled away. Through the windows, I watched Lauren and Kyle pacing the rooms, flashlights cutting nervous arcs through the darkness. My phone rang at 4:15. Lauren again. Ethan, this is insane. You can't just shut off the utilities. I can manage my accounts at my house however I choose. The food is spoiling. The security system is offline. Maybe Kyle can help you problem solve. He looked resourceful. This is harassment. No, this is property management. If you want utilities, you're free to open accounts in your own name. Of course, I added, you'll need permission from the property owner. I'm calling the police. Good idea. Ask them to walk you through property law while they're there. She hung up. I ordered Chinese takeout and ate it in my hotel room while the evening news murmured in the background. The forecast called for snow flurries overnight. I hoped Kyle owned a warm car. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter, Madison. She was a sophomore at State, communications major, minor in social media chaos. Dad, what's going on? Mom says you locked her out of the house. I called immediately. She answered on the first ring. Dad, Mom is losing it. She says you're being vindictive, cruel. Madison, your mother changed the locks on my house and moved another man into our bedroom. Explain how that makes me the villain. She said you've been having problems for months. That's news to me. When did she tell you about these problems? A pause. She didn't exactly. She just said you've been distant. Always working. I've worked the same hours for 20 years, the hours that paid your tuition, your car, and that spring break trip to Cancun. This is so messed up. Are you getting divorced? That appears to be your mother's plan, I said. She just picked an unusual opening move. Where are you staying? She asked. Downtown hotel. I'm fine, kiddo. What about Mom? She asked. Your mother is a 44-year-old lawyer. She'll figure something out, I said calmly. After we hung up, I sat on the hotel bed and thought about what came next. Lauren hadn't acted on impulse. This had been staged, weeks, maybe months. The deadbolt, the timing while I was out of town, the dramatic text, maximum impact. What she hadn't accounted for was the fallout. Thursday morning arrived with 6 inches of snow and 47 missed calls from Lauren. I didn't listen to the voicemails. Instead, I drove to Jim Patterson's office and reviewed the paperwork that would make everything official. You sure about this? Jim asked, sliding the eviction notice across his desk. She abandoned the property, changed the locks, moved in an unauthorized occupant, and sent a message ending the marriage. Under the prenup, she forfeited occupancy. The law's on your side, Jim said carefully. But this will get ugly. It already is, I replied. I'm just formalizing it. The deputy who served the notice was Rodriguez. I'd done electrical work for him the year before. He recognized me immediately. This is awkward, Ethan, he said. Small town, word travels. You want to grab anything while I'm here? I'm not going inside. Everything I need is at the hotel. Rodriguez knocked. Lauren answered wearing one of my old flannel shirts over jeans. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail. She looked exhausted. Kyle was gone. Mrs. Caldwell, Rodriguez said, I have an eviction notice for this address. This is my house, Lauren snapped. You can't evict me. Ma'am, according to property records and the legal documents provided, you have 72 hours to vacate. Her hands shook as she took the papers. Her eyes found me by my truck. For the first time in 22 years, I saw real fear. Ethan, please, we can fix this. You had that chance before you changed my locks. I made a mistake. Kyle left when the power went out. Smart man, please don't do this. I have nowhere to go. You have your mother's house. According to the prenup, that's been your legal address the whole time. Rodriguez handed her the final copy. If you're not out by Sunday at 6, I'll return with a removal order. After he left, Lauren walked toward my truck. She looked smaller somehow, drowned in that flannel, reduced by reality. 22 years, Ethan, doesn't that matter? She said. It mattered more than anything, I replied. I never meant for it to happen like this, she almost sobbed. How did you mean for it to happen? I said. You locked me out, moved another man in, ended our marriage by text. How was this supposed to go? I thought you'd fight for me, she replied. I thought you'd be worth fighting for. She cried then, standing in the snow, eviction notice trembling in her hands. A part of me wanted to comfort her. That part was shrinking daily. What am I supposed to tell people? Tell them the truth. Tell them you chose to leave. I drove away while she was still standing there. Saturday morning, I hired movers. 3 guys, bonded, insured, professional. I met them at 8 a.m. with a detailed inventory. Only what's on this list, I told Martinez, the crew chief. Everything else stays. Lauren's car wasn't there. Good. The door was locked. I had keys to my own house. The new deadbolt came off in 30 seconds with my drill. I left it on the counter with a note. Thanks for the upgrade. Ethan, the movers packed efficiently, clothes, books, ceramic angels I never understood, her jewelry box, framed family photos. 22 years, condensed into cardboard. I kept my wedding ring on while supervising. Taking it off felt like revenge. This wasn't that. We were loading the last boxes when Lauren's Honda pulled in. She stepped out slowly. Ethan, what are you doing? Moving your belongings to your legal address. You can't do this. Actually, I said, I can. You abandoned the property. Under state law, I was entitled to remove abandoned property, and I said it calmly, almost clinically, as if repeating it enough times would keep the situation from spiraling any further. Lauren didn't hear a word of it. She stormed across the driveway toward Martinez, who was tightening tie-down straps on the moving truck, his movements steady, professional, despite the tension hanging in the air. This is theft, she snapped. You're stealing my things. Martinez paused and looked over at me, not unkindly, just cautious. Sir, do you have documentation? I did. I always did. I handed him copies of the eviction notice, the property deed, and the prenup neatly clipped together. He skimmed them quickly, the way someone does when they've seen enough paperwork to know what matters and what doesn't. After a moment, he handed them back. Ma'am, he said evenly, everything looks legal. We're just doing our job. Lauren's face flushed red, anger pushing past disbelief. She turned, grabbed one of the ceramic angels from a box that hadn't yet been loaded, and hurled it at my truck. It struck the driver's side window and shattered, the safety glass fracturing into a spiderweb of cracks that glittered in the sunlight. Feel better? I asked, my voice level. Go to heck, Ethan. Already there, I replied. You sent me the address. Martinez and his crew finished loading the truck while Lauren sat in her car, crying, shouting into her phone, or doing both at once. I didn't watch her. I followed the moving truck as it pulled away, all the way to her mother's house on Maple Street. A small ranch-style place, faded siding, front yard cluttered with garden gnomes and plastic flamingos. Mrs. Patterson, a leaner who had always kept her maiden name, came outside to watch us unload. She was 73, sharp-eyed, and had never liked me much. The feeling over the years had become mutual. Ethan Jammin, she said stiffly, this is a new low, even for you. Hello, Alina, I answered. Nice to see you too. Throwing my daughter out of her own home like she's trash. Your daughter threw herself out when she changed the locks and moved in her boyfriend. She made a mistake. People do, I said. Some mistakes come with consequences. The movers stacked Lauren's boxes in Alina's garage, efficient and silent. 22 years of marriage, reduced to cardboard and packing tape, barely filling half the space. When they were finished, I tipped each man $50 and watched the truck disappear down the street. Lauren stepped out of her car and walked toward me, her shoulders tense. I filed assault charges, I said quietly. What? The ceramic angel, I explained. Destruction of property, assault with a deadly object, 3 witnesses, 1 damaged truck. You're insane. I'm thorough, I replied. There's a difference. I got into my truck and drove away, leaving her standing in her mother's driveway, surrounded by boxes and the wreckage of the life she'd dismantled herself. Monday morning brought a call that shifted everything again. Kyle Donnelly's employer, Med Supply Solutions, had received an anonymous tip about irregularities in his expense reports. I knew because Kyle called me directly. Caldwell, he said, his voice tight. What did you do? I'm sorry, who is this? You know exactly who this is. What did you tell my boss? I haven't spoken to your boss, I said. I don't even know who he is. Someone sent them copies of my expense reports, he snapped. Client visits that don't match my GPS. Sounds like something you should take up with HR. This is harassment. No, I said calmly. This is Tuesday. Harassment would be me calling you every hour to discuss what you did to my marriage. Your marriage was over before I showed up. Was it? I asked. Because my wife seemed pretty committed when she was planning our anniversary trip to Hawaii 2 weeks before you appeared. He went quiet. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, he said finally. How did you mean for it to happen? I don't know. I thought maybe you two were separated or something. Did you ask? Not exactly. So you just assumed it was fine to sleep with a married woman in her husband's house. It's complicated. No, I said. It's simple. You target married women with assets, and this time you got caught. I hung up before he could respond. The truth was I hadn't sent anything to Kyle's employer, but I had done my homework. What I found was telling. Kyle had a pattern. His last 3 relationships, according to public records and social media, were all with women who owned property or had substantial assets. He wasn't unlucky in love. He was strategic, a professional boyfriend, a parasite, one who latched onto stability and drained it. His expense reports were just as bad, claimed client visits in cities he'd never been to, inflated mileage, weekend meals billed as business expenses. Someone at Med Supply had noticed, eventually, and opened an investigation. I hadn't caused his downfall. I'd just been curious enough to see it coming. My phone rang again. Lauren. Ethan, I need to ask you something. I'm listening. Did you have anything to do with Kyle losing his job? Kyle lost his job. Don't play dumb. His boss fired him this morning. For falsified expense reports? She hesitated. He says someone sent his company information. About his personal life, I said, or his professional misconduct. A pause. What do you mean? I mean he's been stealing from his employer for months, maybe years. If someone noticed, that's not harassment, that's accountability. You did this. I didn't have to, I replied. Kyle did it to himself. He's broke, Ethan, she said. The BMW was repossessed. He can't pay his rent. Sounds like he wasn't as successful as you thought. He's not my boyfriend anymore. Smart move. I need to come home. You don't have a home, I said. You abandoned it. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I corrected. Now you live with it. She hung up. I sat alone in my hotel room thinking about choices and consequences. Lauren had chosen excitement over stability. Kyle had chosen theft over honest work. They'd both chosen deception over truth. I'd chosen to stop being a victim. Wednesday evening, my old friend Jack Russo called. Jack owned Russo's Place, a working-class bar where electricians and construction crews drank cheap beer and complained about long days. We'd been friends since high school, back when I still believed marriage meant forever. Ethan, he said, you need to get down here. What's wrong? Your wife's here. She's drunk with some guy I don't recognize. She's telling anyone who will listen that you're controlling and aggressive, that you threw her out. Let me guess, I said. People are buying her drinks. Some are, others remember who you are. It's getting ugly. I'm on my way. Russo's Place was packed for a Wednesday night, mostly with guys I'd worked alongside for years. The electricians' union was tight, and word about Lauren changing the locks had spread fast. Most of them understood what that meant, even without the full story. I spotted Lauren at the bar. She sat next to a man I didn't recognize. She wore a low-cut dress I'd never seen before. Her hair styled carefully. The transformation was striking. She looked like she was trying to be 25 again. The man beside her looked about my age, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first truck. His hand rested low on her back, familiar, possessive. Whatever conversation they'd started, they were well past introductions. Jack nodded toward them from behind the bar, his expression tight. She's been here 2 hours, he said, telling anyone who will listen that you're a monster. What exactly is she saying? I asked. That you cut off the utilities to freeze her out, that you had her stuff dumped on the street, that you're trying to steal the house she helped pay for. And what are people saying back? Mixed, Jack replied. The guys who know you aren't buying it, but some of the younger ones, the ones who don't know the whole story, they're getting worked up. I took a breath and walked over. Lauren saw me coming and went pale. Ethan, she said quickly, I didn't expect to see you here. It's my regular bar, Lauren, I said. I've been drinking here for 15 years. The man beside her turned, younger than I thought, maybe 40, clean-cut. Confident in that way only men without consequences ever are. He stood and extended his hand. You must be the husband, David Mitchell. I didn't take it. And you are? A friend of Lauren's, he said, unfazed. She's been telling me about her situation. Her situation? I repeated. How you've been harassing her, cutting off utilities, having her evicted from her own home. It's not her home, I said evenly. It's mine. She changed the locks and moved in her boyfriend. David blinked. That's not what she told me. I'm sure it isn't. Lauren grabbed his arm. We should go. No, I said. Let's clear this up. Right now, I raised my voice just enough. Conversations died. Glasses froze midair. 3 days ago, I said, I came home from a work trip and found the locks changed on the house I built with my own hands. When I looked through the window, my wife was on my couch with another man, drinking my whiskey. She sent me a text saying she'd found someone better and that I should collect my things. The bar was silent. The house is titled in my family trust, I continued. Her name isn't on the deed. She signed a prenup 22 years ago that spells this out clearly. When she changed the locks and moved in her boyfriend, she legally abandoned the property. That's not true, Lauren said, but her voice wavered. Which part? I asked. The locks, the boyfriend, or the prenup you signed over mimosas at that brunch place on Elm Street? David turned to her. You didn't mention a prenup. It's complicated, she muttered. No, I said, it isn't. She chose to leave. She chose to end our marriage. She chose to do it in the most humiliating way possible. Now she's angry because choices have consequences. A chair scraped near the pool table. A younger guy stood, Tommy Garrett. That's still no reason to throw a woman out on the street, he said. I didn't, I replied. I had her belongings moved to her mother's house. She's doing just fine. You cut off the utilities in winter. I canceled my accounts at my house. She was free to open her own. That's cold, man. You know what's cold, I said. Coming home to another man in your bed and a text ending your marriage. Tommy stepped closer. Maybe if you'd been a better husband. The room went dead quiet. I saw Jack reach under the bar. Tommy, I said softly, you don't know what you're talking about. I know you're bullying a woman who can't fight back. She's a lawyer, I said. She fights for a living. Maybe someone should show you what it feels like. That's when David made his mistake. He stood and put a hand on my shoulder. Let's all calm down. I looked at his hand, then at his face. Take your hand off me. I'm just trying to help. Take your hand off me. He squeezed to reassure or control. I grabbed his wrist and twisted just enough. He stumbled back into his stool. Don't touch me again. You're crazy, he said, rubbing his wrist. I'm tired, I replied. Tired of being lied about, tired of being blamed for other people's choices, and tired of strangers thinking they know my life. Tommy still hovered, hungry for a moment. You want to try that tough guy act on someone your size? Tommy, Jack warned, sit down. Make me. I looked around at the faces, old coworkers, half-friends, people who'd watched me build a life brick by brick. You're right, I said. I am a bully. I bullied the power company into shutting off service to my own house. I bullied the sheriff into serving a legal eviction notice. I bullied movers into relocating abandoned property. I tossed a 20 onto the bar. That's for whatever happens after I leave. At the door, I turned back to Lauren. By the way, Kyle, the one who was better than me, fired yesterday for stealing from his company, BMW repossessed. He's broke and shopping for his next victim. I left them there and went back to my hotel, room service. Late news, more snow in the forecast. Perfect. Friday morning, I went to the house one last time. Not to move back in, but to close the door. The locksmith, Peterson, was already there installing new deadbolts. You want the old ones? He asked. Keep them, I said. Evidence. Jim Patterson arrived as Peterson finished. We walked through the house together, documenting everything. How you holding up? Jim asked. Better than I thought. With the prenup and abandonment, this'll be clean, he said. She gets what she can prove she owned before the marriage and half the joint accounts. How much is that? About $4,000. She can have it. The house felt different, lighter somehow, like it had finally exhaled. In the bedroom, I packed the last of my clothes and closed the door on 22 years that were already over. My father's watch sat on the nightstand, exactly where he'd placed it years ago the last time he visited. Beside it, a framed photo of Madison at her high school graduation. Cap crooked, smile too big, her whole future still intact. I wrapped both carefully in an old flannel shirt. From the back of the closet, I retrieved the small wooden box that held my grandfather's war medals. I hadn't opened it in years, but the weight of it felt right in my hands. Solid. Earned. You really going to sell it? Jim asked quietly. I can't live here anymore, I said. Too many ghosts. He nodded slowly, looking around the room. It's a beautiful house. You did good work here. I did good work on a lot of things, I replied. Doesn't mean they were built to last. We were loading the last box into my truck when a familiar sound pulled my attention away. Tires on gravel. An engine idling too long. Lauren's Honda rolled into the driveway and came to a stop like it wasn't sure it belonged there anymore. She stepped out slowly, cautiously, like she was approaching the scene of a crime. "Ethan," she said, her voice tight, "I heard you were here just collecting the last of my things." I shut the tailgate. "We need to talk?" "Yes, please," I shook my head. "I don't think we do." "5 minutes," she said. "That's all I'm asking." Jim glanced at me. "I'll wait in my car." After he left, Lauren and I stood in the driveway of the house we'd shared for over 2 decades, the same driveway where we'd unloaded furniture, where Madison learned to ride her bike, where we'd once stood laughing in the rain, convinced nothing could touch us. She looked older, not just tired, worn down, like the past week had stripped something permanent away. "I want to come home," she said. "This isn't your home anymore." "I made a mistake," she said quickly. "A terrible one, but we can fix this." "No," I replied, "we can't." "Ethan, please, 22 years. That has to count for something." "It counted for everything," I said, "until you decided it counted for nothing." "I never said that." "You didn't have to," I said. "You changed the locks, you moved in another man. You ended our marriage with a text message, like I was some guy you dated for a few weeks." "I was confused," she said. "I felt trapped. I thought you didn't love me anymore." "When did I ever give you that impression?" I asked. "You worked all the time. We never talked. We were like strangers living in the same house." "I worked to pay for this house," I said, "to pay for Madison's college, to pay for the life you said you wanted." "I wanted a husband," she said, her voice cracking. "Not a paycheck." "You had a husband," I said evenly. "You threw him away." She started crying then, real tears. Once they would have undone me. This time they didn't move me at all. "What about forgiveness?" she asked. "Second chances? What about consequences?" I said. "What about self-respect? I'll do anything to fix this." "There's nothing to fix." "It's over because of Kyle," she said quickly. "He's gone. He doesn't matter." "This isn't about Kyle," I said. "It's about you, about the choice you made to betray everything we built together." "People make mistakes, Ethan." "Some mistakes," I said quietly, "you don't come back from." I climbed into my truck and turned the key. Lauren rushed to the passenger window and knocked. "Where are you going to live?" "I'll figure it out." "What about us?" "There is no us." I backed out of the driveway and drove away. Leaving her standing in front of the house, she lost the moment she decided I wasn't enough. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in February, exactly 6 weeks after I came home and discovered my key no longer fit the lock. Judge Morrison reviewed the prenup and abandonment documentation with practiced precision. She was fair, thorough, impossible to manipulate. "Mrs. Caldwell," she said, "did you understand the terms of this prenuptial agreement when you signed it?" Lauren sat beside a lawyer she'd hired with money borrowed from her mother. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I thought it was just a formality," she said. "We were in love. But you did read it. Not carefully. The document states that abandonment of the marital residence results in forfeiture of any claim to the property," Judge Morrison said. "Do you dispute that you changed the locks and prevented your husband from entering?" "I was confused," Lauren said again. "I made a mistake. A mistake that left your husband locked out of his own property for several days." Her lawyer tried to argue the prenup was unconscionable. Judge Morrison shut it down immediately. "Your client is an attorney with 15 years of experience," she said. "The idea that she didn't understand this agreement strains credibility." The hearing lasted less than an hour. When it ended, I was single again, with full ownership of the house, the business, and everything else built over 22 years. Lauren got her personal belongings, half the joint checking account, and the assault charge I filed after she threw a ceramic angel at my truck. Outside the courthouse, she tried one last time. "I know you hate me," she said, "but I am sorry." "I don't hate you," I replied. "I don't feel anything at all. That's worse than hate. That's the point." She walked toward her mother's car. I watched them drive away, then went to lunch at a diner downtown where nobody knew me and nobody cared. The house sold 3 weeks later to a young couple with 2 kids and a golden retriever. They loved the craftsmanship, the details, the way everything made sense. "You could get more," the realtor said. "I'm sure," I replied. "I sold it for exactly what I'd put into it. I bought a small condo near the lake, clean lines, no history. Madison helped me move in. Pizza, beer, laughter. You doing okay, Dad? Better than okay?" She nodded, not fully understanding yet. 6 months later, I ran into Kyle Donnelly at the grocery store. He was stocking apples, wearing a vest too big for him. "Hello, Kyle." He didn't meet my eyes. Some stories end exactly the way they should.